Hi there, welcome to 5 Minute Psychology. I'm Blaine. This is the vlog/podcast where we discuss fun facts and findings in psychology in a quick and hopefully concise manner. I have a really exciting subject today. That subject is false memories. So, what's a false memory? It's when we remember something that didn't happen, but easy. The biggest name in this line of research is Elizabeth Loftus. So if you want to read specifics, I suggest checking her research out. The two studies that I'd briefly like to discuss both stem from her work. In one study, she had two groups of people watch the same video. It was a video of two cars colliding. The first group, after they watched the video, she would ask them, how fast was that car going when it bumped into the other car? The second group, she would ask, how fast was that car going when it smashed into the other car? The difference there is bumped into the car versus smashed into the car. And depending on the question that was asked, people described a very different event. People who were asked how fast the car was going when it bumped would say, it wasn't going that fast. It wasn't that bad. I don't remember anything terrible. People who were asked how fast was the car going when it smashed into the other car would say things like, I remember it going like 50 miles an hour, and there was smashed glass everywhere on the pavement. Different memories. False memories, right? That's crazy. Just by framing a question differently after an event, people are remembering completely different things. Think about how problematic this is for the law and eyewitness testimony. We suck at remembering, unfortunately. I know that we all think we're good, but we're not nearly as good as we want to be. We construct a false memory that fast, that easily. So the number one way that researchers do this in the lab is they tend to use an authority figure. So what they do is they bring you in and they say something along the lines of, what's a credible, easy to think about event? So something like, remember that time you got lost in the grocery store as a kid, and that old man kind of helped you to the front, right? Credible, right? We can believe that, and it's easy to think about. Then they use an authority figure. Well, your mom was telling us about that event, and she said that old man was very kindly, but he smelled a little funny. But she was so thankful because you'd been lost for like 20 minutes. And that's it. Upwards of like 30% of people who end up hearing a story like that then construct a false memory. They'll say, oh yeah, I remember it. I was in Walmart. It was a Tuesday. I remember the air smelled like cotton candy. That old man had a giant beard. Like all of these things, right? Your brain goes in and it fills that memory with details, even though the memory is false. It never happened, right? And the scariest part is that even when a researcher tells them, hey, guess what? We fooled you. That wasn't a real memory. We do this to everyone. A lot of the times, the participants will swear it actually happened. Terrifying. Terrifying. Eyewitness testimony, right? Terrifies me. So there are two examples of this that I'd like to discuss briefly. The first one is people who claim that they remember being born. Sorry to bust the myth, but there's no evidence that that's a thing. The science actually kind of points the opposite direction, right? Your brain is doing some pretty crazy things when you're born. You're going through neurogenesis. You're creating new neurons all the time, and then you're pairing them back over a series of months. There's just no solid scientific evidence that your brain is in a state where it is capable to really remember clearly and distinctly all the events of being born. A lot of times they'll call this infantile amnesia. And I think the most current hypothesis is that when your brain is creating new neurons, it's actively forgetting those original events. I'm sorry if you believe this is a thing, but the evidence actually kind of points towards this being a false memory because it's really easy to think about being in a warm, dark space and then seeing a light. The other issue is more of a cultural issue and is super problematic, and if you see it in television, be skeptical. It's repressed memories. Repressed memories, there's no evidence. In fact, the evidence points to them being false memories, right? You go to a therapist, one authority figure, who then describes an event to you, right? Think back to your childhood. Remember when you were in your home and you were in that room with your uncle and he said something terrible, or your mother wouldn't let you wear that dress. It's the perfect cocktail for the construction of a fake memory, right? There's no evidence that your brain actively pushes any memories down and can't access them later, at least not in that way. So whenever someone talks about being hypnotized to remember something that's repressed, chances are they're constructing a false memory. So you should be skeptical, and if you don't believe me, I highly suggest looking up the research. I would love to hear anyone else's examples of a false memory. I myself have created a false memory and caught myself doing it once. It was really eerie, especially knowing how this all works, because everyone likes to think that they're resistant to it, but not everyone is. Lastly, I want to turn towards why this isn't all a bad thing, because as usual, I'd like to connect it to art, and I think the construction of false memories is kind of impressive, right? That's a creative act. Your brain is going back and it's filling in details, which is something that you do with every memory, right? We know that you don't remember everything clearly. You don't remember every tree clearly. You don't remember the color and the shade of every leaf on every tree, right? You have a general idea of a tree in your head, and then you go back and you fill in the details. That's creative. That's like being a painter, right? You're an artist all the time. Every time you remember something, you're going back and you're filling in these things, right? You're filling in all of this multitude of details. That's an amazing artistic creative act, and I think it's really cool, and you should too. All right, so that's 5-Minute Psychology. Thanks for listening or following. If you are interested and want to hear more, I suggest checking out my SoundCloud or YouTube, 5-Minute Psychology, or you can check me out on my website, cbh2132.wixsite/website. I'll change it one day. Thanks, everyone. Bye.